Today I wanted to pose the question that has been on my mind for some time now. Why do we have more of an interest and place more of a focus on teams that lose rather than teams that win? There are three major players in the AFL content world on YouTube: Fox Sports, SEN and Footy on 9. And today, I'm going to put a spotlight on the kinds of negative press that these platforms are pushing on us, the consumers. Let's start with Footy on 9. So despite not having any game rights, Channel 9 offer up quite a bit of footy content with the Sunday Footy Show, the Footy Furnace, Footy Classified, and they also upload Eddie Maguire and Jimmy Bartell's podcast. After round 1, 3 clips from the Sunday Footy Show were uploaded. The first was focused on Ken Hinkley and Port Adelaide's poor start to the season. The second clip highlighted North Melbourne's continued on-field troubles, whilst the third was centred around a light-hearted look at football's so-called media wars. They also uploaded the entire show, so kudos to them for moving with the times. Footy Classified airs twice a week, and a portion of their grabs over the opening weeks of the season have focused on Matty Lloyd's opinion on Brad Scott's coaching extension, the Christian Petrarca change of management situation, Luke Beveridge's coaching status and a hypothetical move to Fremantle, Harley Reid's future and reports that rival clubs deem him gettable. We then had James Hurd's take on Brad Scott's coaching extension, a segment focusing on Tim Kelly and his supposed struggles, whilst the thumbnail for a full episode focused on Carlton, suggesting that their premiership chances were dashed after just the one game. Fox Footy also offer up a plethora of footy programs, uploading clips from First Crack, AFL 360, On the Couch, the Midweek Tackle, and the First Crack preview show. No surprise, they too focused on the more negative stories coming out of the opening weeks. First Crack opened up proceedings, and the 2 clips uploaded highlighted Harley Reid and the so-called woes plaguing the 2 Western Australian teams, and the second implored Ken Hinkley to do the right thing and hand over the reins to Josh Carr. AFL 360 also centred their coverage around Ken Hinkley, but then added Michael Voss and Justin Longmuir to the mix. The clip from On the Couch continued the Carlton pile-on, suggesting that the Blues can't be trusted. Thankfully, there was a second clip from On the Couch which focused on the Hawks and their elite foot skills. Give credit where it's due. The only clip uploaded from the Midweek Tackle shone a spotlight on the 6 coaches under the most pressure. 1 week into the season and after a victory with an undermanned team, Luke Beveridge's tenure was deemed over. Later in the week, AFL 360 continued the narrative with regards to Port Adelaide firstly, and then Carlton again as they prepared to face the Hawks. In the lead up to the Collingwood and Footscray blockbuster on Friday night, the First Crack preview show asked if Scott Pendlebury was still an automatic selection. I think he answered that on Friday night. And in the immediate aftermath of Hawthorn's victory against Carlton, the Blues again became the focus of the attention, despite the Hawks opening the season 3-0. SEN's coverage centres on 3 segments: David King and Kane Corns' Fireball, which uploads twice a week, Jared Waitley and Nathan Buckley's Means Test, and a weekly clip from Champion Data's Daniel Hoyne. Now there is some balance to the SEN narrative, with the Means Test having a fairly generic open to the season, asking what the key takeaways were from opening round. Whilst in the second week after the carnage of round 1, they too would focus on the negative stories of the weekend, asking which teams are already in trouble. Hoyne's Champion Data segment was framed similarly. Week 1 was sensationalism, with red flags capitalised after just 2 games, whilst last week's clip centred on surprise MVPs. Again, fairly balanced between positive and negative. Kingy and the Corn's first analysis asked if it was time to worry about the age of Collingwood's list. Later in the week, they actually squared the focus on the Tigers' victory rather than the Blues' failure, again continuing the balanced perspectives, and on the Monday after the weekend's game, an analysis of each team's performance was offered, which was good stuff. Finally, Whilst the Blues may have managed to escape the thumbnail the previous week, they weren't so lucky this week, with the question asked as to whether their season was over after just 2 matches. Now obviously these media personalities don't decide which clips are going to be cut up and put out for content. They don't create the thumbnails and they don't come up with the headlines. But the people that do have a job to do. And that job is to get as many clicks as they possibly can on those videos. And the general consensus is obviously that us as consumers respond more to sensationalism. We are more likely to watch something controversial or somebody with a strong opinion than we are to watch some in-depth and balanced analysis of the game. Why is this? Why did Geelong's absolute dismantling of Fremantle not garner any attention? The media have been whining for years about the fact that the Crows and Suns consistently under-deliver. They were both brutal and brilliant in games that they would normally drop. Yet there were no thumbnails suggesting that they had finally arrived as a force. The Dogs had gone into their clash with the Kangas after the off-season from hell, with trades for current and former stars dissected and torn apart, off-field personnel issues, an injury crisis that saw 6 first-choice players missing and a coach under some serious heat. Yet they somehow gutsed out a close victory, and the only narratives to come out of the game were how North had proven again that they couldn't get it done and that Bevo's reign was over. Seriously, what are we doing here? So again, I ask the question, is this really what you, the consumer of AFL content, want? Are you more interested in the ever-increasing American style of big personalities, big opinions, and hot takes? Or do you want to see more content on the how and why good teams are performing the way they are? Would you like to see more of a focus on the winners from the weekend rather than the losers? Drop a comment below and let me know your thoughts. For me, I'd much rather see a few stories on the Crows this week rather than the endless Brad Scott unnecessary contract extension talk that will inevitably happen. But I won't be holding my breath. I think we all know what's coming. As always, thanks for watching. And if you wanted to check out a more positive piece of analysis, check out my video on the Hawks and Giants after their opening round victories. If you haven't already, please be sure to like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.